Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode we're doing Who Was Better. The topic for this Who Was Better: two friends, two former tag team partners, a mentor and a student, Chris Hero, aka Cassius Ohno, and Claudio Castagnoli, aka Antonio Cesaro. Now these guys, if you don't know, they're part of a historic tag team in Ring of Honor and other independent federations, that being the Kings of Wrestling. Chris Hero helped train Claudio Castagnoli. These guys are good friends, great wrestlers, and two guys I think are going to stack up very well against each other. Now for this, if you haven't seen my Who Was Better videos before, I grade these guys on a 1 to 5 scale in 8 different categories. 1 is the worst, 5 is the best. At the end, we total up their points. Whoever has the most points wins. There is a chance for 5 bonus points, and we'll talk about that when we get there. With that being said, let's jump right in. For technical wrestling, I'm giving both these guys a 5. These are what I would consider two of the better in-ring performers of their generation. These guys could absolutely have matches with anybody in the world and make it look great, whether that be Hero versus Eddie Kingston, Claudio versus Sheamus, or anybody else in the world. These two guys always have great matches. I don't think I could think of any bad matches between either of the two, whether that be as a team, whether that be against each other, whether that be against other opponents. That's why they both get a 5. Now going from that, striking. Again, they're both getting a 5 here. I mean, if you watch either of these guys' matches, and you see how hard-hitting they are, whether it be Claudio with his uppercuts or Hero with his elbows or his spinning kicks, these guys were absolutely devastating, and still are to an extent. Claudio is more active now. I don't think Hero is still wrestling. I know he did a comeback thing with Timothy Thatcher, but I think that was the last thing he did. I digress. Both these guys were absolutely amazing in every aspect of in-ring. That's why they get a 5 in technical ability and a 5 in striking too. Next up, how they perform as a heel. For Chris Hero, I'm giving Hero a 4. I especially love the era of Chris Hero when he was part of Team CZW against Team Ring of Honor, and how much of a, for lack of a better term, asshole he was at the time. I thought he did really well at the role. I thought he was someone that could have been even elevated in that to be a top tier heel. I don't think he ever quite got that push to get there, but for me, he was a 4. He was right there, knocking on the door of greatness, but didn't quite get there. Now for Claudio, I'm giving a 3. And the main reason for that is, I don't think Claudio Castagnoli, as a heel, ever truly worked. Now, he did do some great heel work, and he had some great matches as a heel, but that's just it. The fans love to watch Claudio Castagnoli matches, and they love seeing him wrestle, and inevitably, he turned into a babyface no matter when he was a heel. He wasn't bad. I can't give him a high score for it just because of that reason. Next up, how they perform as a babyface. So for both of these guys, I'm giving them both a 4. I think they're both awesome. I think they're both better as faces than they are as heels. Even Claudio's current run at the time of this recording as part of the Death Riders, I kind of feel like he's the babyface inside that faction. You may hate Moxley, you may hate Yuta, you may even hate Marina Shafir, but you don't hate Claudio. You still want to see Claudio do awesome things. For that, I'm giving both these guys a 4. I think they're right there, not quite the top of the food chain, but just below it. Now next up, promos. For Chris Hero, Hero is getting a 4. Again, he doesn't quite make it to that top tier in this for me, and a lot of his promos, the reason for this is, he had some really great promos, but he had a lot of them that were, how can I say, cat in the hat like, or to quote something that people talk about rappers with, he was a lyrical miracle kind of guy, where he was a little bit too sing-songy in my opinion. But I did think he did a good promo. I just don't think he made it to the top tier. For Claudio's getting a 3. He's not a bad talker, but he always worked best with somebody else doing the talking for him. Whether that be Hero when they were a team, or Shane Hagadorn, or Paul Heyman, or Dutch Mantel. Claudio, to me, has always been the kind of wrestler that works best with a manager talking about him. That's why I gotta give him a 3. Now for presentation, for Chris Hero, I'm giving Hero a 3. And it's going to come bad from a guy that you could obviously see as a heavier gentleman on your screen. But there's a lot of years where Chris Hero wore, how should I say, very unflattering gear. I don't mind that Hero was a bigger wrestler. He was still one of the best wrestlers in the world. However, he looked bad. And the stuff he was wearing made him look more out of shape. He had some great looks, like his early career with the pants and the CH and the Superman style. I even enjoyed the basketball style jerseys. I love his music, Who's Your Hero, Chris Hero, all that stuff. But, like I said, there was a point as he got heavier, and again, I'm not body shaming the guy, that the gear he was wearing made him look more out of shape than he was. For that, I can't give him higher than a 3. Now for Claudio's going to get a 4. The only reason Claudio doesn't get a 5 is go back to early Claudio before he shaved his head and look how goofy he looked. And yeah, that's the only reason. I mean, he should probably get a 5 because that was so long ago, and his presentation has been great since then, whether he had the tearaway suit as Cesaro or the matching gear with Tyson Kidd as their tag team, which I think is criminally underrated, or part of the bar, or anything else he's done since then. Gotta knock him down a bit. I also think that the Death Rider's presentation doesn't fit him as well. He's a very, how should I say, and this could sound even weirder based on what I just said about Hero. He's kind of a suave-looking, James Bond-looking kind of guy, and I think you need to play him like that. You don't need to play him as a guy in a t-shirt and jeans. You need to play him as a guy in a button-up shirt and a suit, because that's what he looks best in. He's an absolutely amazing athlete. He gets a 4. Now for charisma, they're both getting a 4 here. Like I said on a lot of these things, they're very, very good. They're just not quite at that top rung. When you think of the era of wrestlers you're comparing these guys to, and you think of guys like CM Punk, guys like John Cena, Randy Orton, Kazuchika Okada, they're both very, very good. They're just a step down from that upper level where the CM Punks would be, where John Cena would be as charismatic, where The Rock would be, or Eddie Guerrero, or even a guy like Kevin Owens would be a little bit better than them on the food chain. Not that they're bad, like I said, they're just in that little bit lesser tier. Now last but not least, how they perform in a big game. Both of these guys are getting a 5, and as you probably could have guessed by their technical ability and striking ratings, I've never seen a bad match with either one of these guys. I'm sure there may be some out there, but I defy you to find one. And I know I just probably set myself up for getting 5 links in the comments of terrible matches that these guys had. But when you've wrestled as many matches as both of these wrestlers had, and I've watched as many matches of both of thig guys as I've had, I've probably seen hundreds of matches of each of these wrestlers, and I can't think of one bad match. And when you put them in the big time in the main events and the championship matches and they shine like they do, I gotta give both these guys a 5 here. When the stakes are at their highest, these two are at their best. Now, totaling up their points, we're going to start with Chris Hero. Hero gets a 34. Claudio Castagnoli. Claudio gets a 33. Now, wait. Here's where that bonus comes in. Every Wednesday, I put a poll on my posts page here on YouTube. Basically, it asks, who do you think is better? It gives you the 2 options. Whoever you guys vote on, they get 5 bonus. Now, as you can see here, with as close as this is, 5 bonus points is going to determine who the winner is. With that being said, the winner of the poll by a landslide, Claudio Castagnoli. Giving him a total of 38 to 34, so he came from behind. And I kind of feel like this was a little bit unfair because Hero hasn't had as much exposure as Claudio, but I also felt like the people that would be Chris Hero fans are diehard Chris Hero fans. I'm a diehard Chris Hero fan. Also a diehard Claudio fan. I think these guys are amazing. I'm a little bit surprised how one-sided it was, and then for other reasons, I'm not as surprised because there's a lot of people that only seen Cassius Ohno and only seen Cesaro and are judging that. But I digress. Claudio Castagnoli deserved to win here. Like I said, he gets that win. He picks up the bonus points. Congratulations, Claudio. Pay attention to that page on Wednesday because there will be a new poll and you can choose who you think should win. And that person is going to get the 5 bonus points if they do win. With all that being said, my name is George Coles and you've been watching Who Was Better.